Hello everyone! Welcome to our assignment video. In this video, we will talk about unemployment and inflation in Malaysia and Japan during COVID-19 pandemic. So now, let's meet the group members. My name is Arwana Syahira binti Rosli.
My name is Nur Akmal Mashita binti Mak Yusof.
My name is Nur Fatin Akidah binti Mak Nasir.
My name is Safa Syazana binti Jamal. Before we start, let me share some facts about Malaysia. Malaysia is a country in Southeast Asia. It is the world's 44th most populous country and one of 17 mega-diverse countries, home to numerous endemic species. Interesting country, right? What is unemployment? The term unemployment refers to the number of people who are available and looking for work but who are unable to find jobs. Unemployment impacts not only individuals but communities, regions, and the overall economy as well. Now, let's discuss about the unemployment issues in Malaysia. The COVID-19 pandemic has exposed and exacerbated existing inequities in the labour market. As a result, Malaysia's unemployment rate has increased from time to time. This can be seen when the unemployment rate in January 2020 was 3.2%, but it continued to rise until May 2020 when it reached 5.3%. This situation continued until October 2021 when Malaysia's unemployment rate declined to 4.3%, which is the lowest level since January 2020. The most affected sectors are especially on air travel and tourism. This is because air travel and tourism industry greatly helps economic growth by promoting overseas purchases of Malaysian goods and services. Many Malaysian citizens suffered terrible effects as a result of the sudden and unexpected loss of their jobs. Due to a lack of income, some people will start to steal, lie, and make a protest to get attention from other people and the government. So, the government take the initiatives to lessen the people's burden by give financial support such as Pemulih, Bantuan Prihatin Rakyat, and iCitra. Later, when Malaysia reopening the nation's border and announced country transition from pandemic to endemic on 1st April 2022, the unemployment rate decreased from 4.1% to 3.9% in April, which is for the very first time the unemployment rate below 4%.
Next, let's talk about inflation in Malaysia during COVID-19. In economics, inflation is a general increase in the prices of goods and services in an economy. When the general price level rises, each unit of currency buys fewer goods and services. Consequently, inflation corresponds to a reduction in the purchasing power of money. The COVID-19 pandemic that occurred in 2020 was indirectly represented in Malaysia's 1.2% negative inflation rate. According to government data released recently, Malaysia's consumer price index rose to 3.2% in December 2021 compared to a year earlier, mainly due to increasing food and fuel prices. Inflation in Malaysia increased by 2.5% from January to December 2021 compared to a negative 1.2% in the same period in 2020. Inflationary pressures mean that you will have to pay more for the same products and services. Excessive inflation reduces a currency's buying power, which can have major negative economic implications. Inflation raises the cost of living over time. Most Malaysian citizens will find it tough to survive during COVID-19 due to the higher cost of living. Inflation may be harmful to the economy if it is high enough. Malaysia has traditionally dealt with inflation by employing economic instruments to affect aggregate demand such as monetary policy. To the extent that inflation is impacted by increased import costs, The strengthening of the ringgit should help to reduce inflationary pressures.
Now, let me tell you a little bit about Japan. Japan is an island country in East Asia. It is one of the most urbanized, densely inhabited, and 11th most populous countries in the world. In terms of nominal GDP, Japan is the third largest country in the world after the United States and China. In terms of purchasing power parity, Japan is the fourth largest country in the world after the United States, China, and India. However, macroeconomic issues brought on by the pandemic have also affected Japan. How the unemployment rate and inflation rate change? Let's start by looking at this issue of unemployment in Japan. The government of Japan proclaimed a state of emergency that applied to the whole country. Citizens were urged to keep a safe distance from one another and avoid from completing any non-essential tasks. The emergency declaration in Japan was revoked. In Japan, where the state of emergency has not yet been reinstated as of the date of this writing, there have been 192,418 COVID-19 cases and 2,827 fatalities, which is a much smaller number than in other Western nations. However, Japan has experienced an economic downturn during the COVID-19 era, as have other nations throughout the world. The Japanese government did not impose any further lockdown restrictions like those that have been utilized in other countries, instead advising citizens to abstain from pointless activities and maintain a healthy physical distance. As a result, the announcement will have a different effect on the Japanese economy than it would in other countries. Suicide rates are known to climb during economic downturns, especially among people of working age and the unemployed in high-income countries. The suicide rate may be increasing in Japan, where more than 66,000 individuals have lost their jobs as a result of COVID-19, and the unemployment rate has risen to 3%. In order to stop the COVID-19 from spreading, lockdowns, company limitations, school closings, and social distancing policies have radically altered daily life and presented difficulties for mental health policy. Furthermore, governments and public health initiatives have not adequately addressed the gendered impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, despite the fact that women are considered to be more likely to suffer the worst social and economic effects of a pandemic. Suicidal tendencies during the COVID-19 pandemic in Japan have not yet been truly evaluated by research. Although there has historically been a high rate of suicide among Japanese men, there is growing worry regarding the suicide rate among women, who are more vulnerable than men, both economically and socially. Research is required to comprehend changes in suicide epidemiology with the twin pressures of pandemic response and economic crisis, because it is still unlikely that the pandemic will be brought under control.
How does Japan respond to this situation then? To aid Japanese citizens, the government launched a number of supplementary financial assistance programs. The first one, the special cash payment, which each resident who registered with the basic resident registration system was given a one-time payment of 100,000 yen. Second, provisional special benefit for child raising to a household, which a one-time payment of 10,000 yen was made for each eligible child. The third one, businesses were given up to 2 million yen under the subsidy program
for sustaining business, while sole proprietors, including freelancers, were given up to 1 million yen. And fourth, with the aid of the employment adjustment subsidy, employers who had to reduce their operations as a result of the pandemic could keep their employees on the job.
What about inflation in Japan? According to worldwide inflation data, the inflation of Japan dropped from 0.47% negative to 0.03% negative in 2020. COVID-19 pandemic has led to cost-push inflation in Japan due to rising costs and oil prices. In Japan, inflation of furniture and household goods and also food increases in the prices. Meanwhile, the sectors that contribute the most to the CPIs fall in 2020 were education and fuel, water, and electricity. Let's see impact inflation to Japanese. Cost of living increases. As we know, if price in oil and fuel increases, other products rise up too. This causes their purchasing power drop. For impact to Japan is the import to other countries like Malaysia will decreases because their prices expensive such as electricity, oil and electronic. What Japan does to cope the inflation? Number 1, Japan implements the monetary policy. Monetary policy is one of the two main ways whereby government authorities in a market economy routinely affect the speed and direction of overall economic activity, which includes not only the degree of aggregate output and employment but also the general rate at which prices grow or decrease. Number 2, Japan also set the maximum price in the market. Last, Japan implements aggressive fiscal policies despite the large government debt.
Overall, COVID-19 shows that Malaysia is more impacted by the issues of inflation and unemployment than is Japan. Both nations utilize the same approach, monetary policies for inflation and fiscal measures for unemployment, to address the issues they encountered during the pandemic COVID-19. Because Japan is Malaysia's principal commercial partner, the decline in import and export activities since the movement control order has had a significant impact on both nations. It is Malaysia's fourth largest trading partner while ranking as the 11th largest trading partner of Japan internationally. Due to a shortage of stock, this will drive up inflation and force the government to raise the price of products and services for sale. And that's all from us. Thank you for listening.